I'm Melissa Shanahan, and this is the Velocity Work Podcast, episode number 51. This podcast is for attorneys who are running their own firms. We explore tactics, tools, and stories related to pushing past simply lawyering well and into building a successful firm. Working in your firm and working on your business are two very different things. This podcast focuses on the latter. Well, hello. Welcome. Very excited that you're here today. Today is a great, zippy little episode called Future Regrets. There's a couple of questions I'm going to offer to you that I've heard recently from some people that I really admire, and it just stopped me in my tracks when I heard them, and they've been so fun to think through. So I want to pass them along to you because I think that just being able to get good questions are everything, right? And there's a couple really good questions that I heard recently. And I think that good questions are at the root of us really creating change, lasting change, reflecting well, and making the changes we want to make. Starts with great questions. So I'm going to give you a couple today. Before we dig into that, I want to tell you, some of you have already found it, which is amazing, but we have a pretty new website, and I didn't say a whole lot about it because we've really been tweaking and just making sure behind the scenes that things are really dialed in and details are like our T's are crossed and our I's are dotted. Well, there is a button on our homepage that says free masterclass. And some of you already found it and opted in, which is fantastic. But it's a replay of the masterclass that we hosted in May, which was very well received. People loved that class. And my whole goal with that class, it was called How to Trade Being Busy for Actual Results. My whole goal was to make it be able to stand on its own. If you wanted to take what you learned in that and go implement it, you had everything you needed. But there's many people who would prefer to have accountability as you're implementing what I taught so that you can really become or really transform, not just like go at it for a couple weeks and then they all die, the habits that I talked about in there and the concepts that I discussed. So we created basically a program for June. It was like a month-long sprint, daily accountability to apply what you learned in the masterclass. And whoa. The results were just whoa. People crushed it. People really made headway like they've never made before. And I'm really proud of that program. I'm super proud of the participants. I mean, I basically gave a framework, held the space for them to show up every day, have to answer for what they're doing or not doing, right? And there's weekly coaching calls and a workshop every month where you get something tangible to walk away with and actually implement into your business. Like we did a whole bunch of things for them to help them, but the core of it was them applying these principles, showing up, doing it again the next day, showing up, and then doing it again the next day. It went so well. And so we're going to open up again in September, another sprint month. So this program is called Mastery Groups. And so we're calling it Mastery Groups Sprint Month. And so the next one we're offering is September. It's a perfect way to round out Q3, set yourself up great for Q4. So if you haven't listened to the masterclass, like if you weren't a participant, I highly recommend that you go to our website, velocitywork.com, click the free masterclass button and sign up there to get access to it. You won't be sorry. The material it's just truth. I'm basically focusing you in on the very thing, the foundational things that you're going to need to get in order to transform into a better owner, into a better business person, into a more accountable business person, and someone really at the root of it all that creates results in and for your firm, not is just busy inside your firm. Many people get to this place where they feel like it's time to start to shift that so they can work on the business more. They can make decisions for the future of their firm, and they aren't just stuck in the chaos and the overwhelm inside of the day-to-day. So I highly recommend that class. Go check it out. You're not going to be sorry. It's going to be fantastic. And if you have listened to the class before, like if you attended in May, I am just going to go ahead and shoot you the email so that if you want to refresh, you can easily access it. So keep your eyes open for that. And then you can decide. You can just take that information and run with it. Or if you would like to participate in September Sprint Month for mastery groups, you should totally do that. It's an extremely reasonable rate for what all that you get. And it's just, if you're looking for some accountability, it's a no-brainer. So check it out. Okay, let's dig into today. The episode is called Future Regrets. And the first part of this episode, I want to talk to you about a question that I heard that was the most profound question I've heard in a long time. There is a man named Jerry Colonna. He is the author of a book called Reboot: Leadership and the Art of Growing Up. And the art of growing up, what I love about that is there is an episode that I did, episode number 10, called Emotional Adulthood and How It Will Supercharge Your Firm, I think, or something. But it's around emotional adulthood and teaching concepts that I learned as an adult that I wish I knew way before I learned them. And it's really how to grow up mentally and emotionally. It is a topic I'm passionate about because I think as adults, most of us are walking around with some bits of emotional childhood that we're operating from, and it's pretty unaware. And so I really enjoy becoming more and more aware, not because it's fun, but because the growth of that, the growth as you learn through that and work through that is so immense, and the payoffs are so huge. So I really enjoy this way of thinking about things. Well, he posed a question, and this was it. How are you complicit in creating the conditions that you say you don't want? I mean, that's pretty good. I'm going to repeat it. How are you complicit in creating the conditions that you say you don't want? That is fascinating. That is a great question. Great questions spark great change. And so when you sit back and you think about what are the conditions you don't want, what are the things in your life that you wish were different, asking yourself how you are complicit is a great way to start to begin to see how you can take full responsibility for the conditions that are in your world, that are in your life. Now, I just talked to you about I'm gearing up to host another sprint month of the daily accountability of mastery groups. And the idea of taking full responsibility and full ownership of the results you're getting in your firm, for your firm, and in your life is especially top of mind right now because I've just watched a group of people crush it in which played a major had an effect on their firm, and then in their life. So it's cool to see. So this has all kind of been top of mind for me, how much control we actually have that we don't always take, and what it looks like when you do take full responsibility and when you do show up in a different way day to day. And so this question kind of hit me in the face, maybe because I'm so focused on that right now, but how are you complicit in creating the conditions that you say you don't want? Ugh, so good. So here's my advice with this question. Sit down, make a list of all conditions that exist that you don't want. And then the second thing, after you make that list, for each of those, ask yourself this great question that Jerry Colonna poses. How are you complicit in creating the conditions that you say you don't want? So how are you complicit in creating those conditions that you wrote on a list? How are you complicit in creating those? And then you can, from that place, there's an awareness that develops that really gives you some control. Then, sometimes when people come to me and we talk about how there's something going on that they're not pleased with, or they're frustrated about, or whatever, we really kind of get back to the truth that they should take, they can see the truth that they have some responsibility in creating this in their own world, where usually it's easy for us to blame an external circumstance or person. And if you just will shift the responsibility to yourself, which requires that your ego gets put aside, you then have control in ways that you weren't allowing yourself to see prior. And so we always joke that it's like the worst news I have for you, but the best news I have for you all at the same time. And the worst news because it sucks when you realize that that really there's so much of this that was in your control, and you've been giving the control, you've been giving all the power to this external circumstance or this external or this person. When you take control back, where you take responsibility back, then it's on you. And that is, it can feel overwhelming or like heavy at first, but that's the best news in the world, because then you can create the results you want to create. You aren't depending on this external circumstance or depending on this person, right? So it's pretty cool. Okay, so that's really part one of the episode, giving you that to run with and to play with. The second question, the second piece of this episode I'm going to offer. In a recent interview, James Altucher, who I love and adore, gave a really productive idea as he was riffing with his guest. He said, make a list of future regrets if you don't change. And I love that because, and the reason I love that is not because I think we all need to change. Like, we don't need to change who we are. There's nothing broken. There's nothing wrong with us. But if you're listening to this podcast, and if you're anything like me, you do like to think about what you can tweak and how to achieve the next level in whatever area of your life that you're looking to achieve the next level. We talk a lot about growing your law firm here, and so there's that, right? But anywhere in your life, make a list of future regrets if you don't change, if nothing about you changes. And so when I say nothing about you, I don't mean the you, like, there's a part of you I believe doesn't change, but there's much of you that does. It grows and evolves. So if you evaluate your habits, your behaviors, your actions, your mindset, your perspective, your attitude, those are the things that like, there's a ripple effect of changing those things, right? And so I think that this can serve as a wake-up call to help light a fire under that booty to initiate change. Make a list of future regrets if nothing changes within you. And so that if your attitude stays exactly the same, your perspective stays exactly the same across the board, your mindset stays exactly the same across the board. What if your habits don't change? What if the actions you take in the world are sort of the same kind of actions you're currently taking in the world? It's so interesting to think about. I've played around with this a bit for myself, and it goes a little hand in hand with an episode I did talking about your future self. It's like a future self exercise. It was right before 2020, or right at the turn of 2019, 2020. So you can go back and find that if you want to. But this idea of thinking forward, and, I'm usually all about thinking forward and thinking for what you do want to create. But there's something really powerful of getting very honest about what the reality will be in the future if you don't change. So I wanted to offer that up as well. I think if you sit down for 20 to 30 minutes to ask yourself the questions I've posed here, and to just write some thoughts about like what comes to mind when you ask yourself those questions, dig in. You will walk away from that mini session with yourself with some ideas of what needs to be focused on. And that's a fantastic thing, because we are inundated with information. We are inundated with what we are told by the world in various forms, what to focus on, what to think about, what to purchase, how to spend our time, all of that. And many of us are suckers for that. Myself included. So if you're a sucker for you're kind of following what good marketing is doing, right? On some level. And that's okay. There's still growth there. But how powerful would it be if you just sat down and you asked yourself these questions, what you should focus on and where you should spend your money and where you should practice becomes very clear with your own, and it'll be coming from your own answers, which is the most powerful place that you can create from. So sit down, do a super thinking session with yourself, and ask yourself, how are you complicit in creating the conditions you say you don't want? And then also make a list of and think through what will be your future regrets if you don't change anything across the board, if everything were to stay exactly as is, what would be your future regrets? And you'll be able to easily see some of the biggest regrets that come to mind. It helps you see what needs to be focused on first, what needs to be focused on and shifted and practiced first, so that you make sure that future regret does not come to fruition. Okay, everyone, that is what I got for you this week. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week, and we will see you next Tuesday. Hi guys, it's me again. Thank you so much for listening. If you like this podcast, you probably understand that growth requires results, not just staying active. If you want to learn how to build your days around getting results, I'll show you how in this zero fluff class that I teach. Go to velocitywork.com/results for registration information. I cannot wait to see you there. If you want to hang out with us on social, come on over to Instagram. Our handle is velocity.work. And on Facebook, it's facebook.com/meetvelocitywork. Cheers, my friends, to real growth and a great life. Show notes from this episode can be found at velocitywork.com/podcast.